Hello, beautiful souls, and Happy New Year! We made it to 2021. It's already felt so full for me, and we're only 4 days in. It's quite remarkable. Today, I'm going to share 3 things with you. First of all, I'm going to read the New Year's message that Ashtar brought through for my newsletter list, my email list. And then I'm going to share my personal experience, because I feel that when we share through our own experience, we're coming from a place of knowing, and it helps other people understand the depth of what's being expressed. So I'm going to share how I've come to know so fully that this ascension is a physical experience. And then I'm going to ask Lord Ashtar to come in once again and bring through a message for us all that will help to express that and share that. So stay tuned. Okay, here is the message from Ashtar that just gives a bit of an overview of 2021 and what we can expect. And I know there's a lot of people who are giving information about, especially astrologically, what we can expect in 21. So here is what Lord Ashtar had to share with us. Greetings, beloveds. We come to you this day in joy and delight at the invitation to come before humanity as you move ever further into this decade. What a year you have been through, and what a year you are moving into. It will be different in many ways, and yet it will also hold great transition and surprise and change. For you are indeed in the process of changing your world. All that did not give way with ease and grace in 2020 will have to find its completion in 2021. As well, there is the energy of rebellion. Humanity, like a teenager who's preparing to leave home, must express its true feelings and demand change for itself. It must demand the liberty that it deserves, and it must be strong to rebel against the system that held it in its boundaries for many, many centuries of time. This does not happen by chasing butterflies. It happens by climbing mountains and shouting from the top what you will and will not tolerate. It happens person by person, each claiming their inner knowing of what is right for them and accepting nothing less. It comes from visionaries willing to see a new world and lead the focus of the stray sheep in the direction of the Savior. And you, beloveds, are the Savior of yourselves. That is why there will be turmoil as the year unfolds. This is why there will be rebellion and clashes with authority. It must happen. For you to whom we speak, the year can unfold in ease or in despair. It can be the greatest year of your life if you choose to integrate the light codes that are now anchored onto Gaia and within yourselves. So those codes are already there. When you allow yourselves to shift and change with ease, world events are like an earthquake trying to shake up a wet noodle. There's no tension there, so therefore nothing to shake up. This is possible if you allow it. See the grace unfolding within yourselves, as has been expressed in so many of the love notes. For others, it is their place to be in the outer edges of the tornado, stirring things up so they can settle elsewhere, and so that restructuring will have to happen in the aftermath. So just in that comment, we can see how important it is that all of this turmoil happens, because we need a new structure and we have to tear down the old structure in order for that to happen. And it's not going willingly, so it takes some serious restructuring. Each of you have your role to play in the new world unfolding. By knowing yourself very well, you will be clear on what your role is. It does not serve to try and be an apple when you are a pear. It does not serve to dishonor yourself in order to try and restore order in the earth. The more you honor yourself and your own true path, the more you are honoring all life is a reflection of your inner world. Do not think of 2021 as a year that is going to be a repeat of 2020. It is not what we are saying. There will be many changes that will bring an ease of living and a new grace upon your planet. However, there is also the element of continued change as the old structures fall away. As always, the best way is to be a witness from the place of complete centeredness within yourself. When that is challenging, call upon your guides and the beings of light who serve humanity to help you through the challenges. You are the creator of your world, each one of you. Awareness is the key to knowing how to create, what to create, and when to create. Let go of all the programs of the past that are from an antiquated structure. Life is ready to flow like a river, moving in, through, and around all obstacles with ease. Life is meant to flow like a river that need not think where it is going. The riverbed is already there, leading the water to its destination effortlessly. This is the way of it now. Allow, 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 and it shall be so. This is your year. Make of it what you will. Lord Ashtar. So there's a lot in that message really for us to contemplate, and I love the way he's inviting us to be empowered within ourselves and to know what our own purpose is in this restructuring of this world. Some of us are here simply carrying the light and projecting that out into the world. Others of us work in many different ways. Some people work on the land and the energy grids. Some people are out on the streets. So it's really important for us to know how to be authentic to what is truly within us. And there's one thing I want to say is that many people kind of have this savior way of thinking. And I know that that's connected to victim mentality, because if there are no victims, we don't need any saviors. And I feel it's really important for us to step out of that victim mode and really ask ourselves, are we doing this because we think we're saving people or saving the world? Or are we doing this to demand our own rights as sovereign beings? When you do it for yourself, this is kind of a tricky thing about the whole thing about being selfless and selfish. When you do it for yourself, you are really doing it for the world. It's almost as if when we're doing it for others, we haven't found that grace within ourselves that deserves the receiving of what we're trying to achieve. And so we do it for others instead. And then that tells us that we're not coming from a place of complete self-healing and self-love. So therefore, that lack of self-love is going to be in the activity. That's why we need to do our own healing work and be so complete and whole within ourselves that everything we do in the outside world is a reflection of that fullness. And it's a continuing process. And I didn't intend this, but it's a perfect segue into what I wanted to share with you about this aspect about ascension being such a physical experience. I have been doing clearing work intently since 2012. It began in 2012 with a friend who does theta healing. So theta healing is a way of finding old patterns within the mind and clearing them and releasing them by going in the etheric realms, into the higher frequencies, and shifting and changing. And from that, many of you may know, I created my own freedom release clearing technique in 2013 and have been working with people around the world since then, doing this work. And is on the etheric realm. I'm able to go into people's fields, the Akashic records, you could say. That's not my intent, but that's one way to describe it. And see where the limiting belief patterns were created, release them and replace them with another potential that would lead to a positive outcome. And by doing that, it's as if this positive outcome is in this now moment. And I also realized very quickly that everyone who came to me was showing me something within myself, because that's the whole mirror effect. everything we bring into our experience is showing us something about ourselves. So I've been doing this intently since 2012. On Tuesday of last week, so a few days before the end of the year, I went for an acupuncture session because of a vertebrae in my back that is inverted. And I've known about this for a while, and a friend of mine heard about this acupuncture, and they also do ozone therapy as part of this. And I inquired about it and decided to go. And I'm not in pain in my back, but I know that this is something I can't ignore if I want to have mobility for the rest of my life and be healthy and vibrant. And I feel like life is just beginning. I always feel like that. So I definitely want to prioritize my health, especially at this stage of my life. And so I went to this therapist, and he told me my back was so tight he could play it like an instrument. And he went very deep. He started at my buttocks and went all the way up to my neck. And he told me some of the needles were going to go like 3 layers deep, you could say, some 2 and some 1. And he told me if it got to be too much to let him know. And so I had this session, and they also told me I'd probably be in pain for a couple of days. They gave me a cream. The receptionist told me if I needed some pain medication, don't hesitate to use it. So when I got up from that table, he had shifted 3 things that were wrong with my body. There's still more to do. And to make a very long story short, for 2 days I was completely exhausted with my body shifting from this. And then I saw that vertebrae had it had less of an indentation, and there were other things that I just felt had come into alignment. And I was told not to lift my grandson because my back, well, he didn't tell me the why. He just told me not to lift my grandson. I babysit my grandson 1 day a week because I want to be part of his life. He's now 1.5 years old. And I just didn't know how I could watch him for a whole day and not, for example, put him in his crib for his nap. And so I for 2 days, I was really tired. The next day I felt fantastic. I went to visit my daughter, and my grandson was just waking up from a nap. And I picked him out of his crib because I thought, well, if I'm going to be babysitting, I'm going to have to do that anyway. So I picked him out of his crib, finished my visit, and left, and soon felt everything start to go back into misalignment. I realized that I had undone what this beautiful person had done for me with this deep, deep acupuncture. I had undone it, and I could feel like things creaking and going back into place. And I was so disappointed with myself for doing that. And intuitively, when the doctor had told me not to lift my grandson, intuitively I ask him why. Because if I know why and it makes sense to me, I'll follow through. And I didn't ask why. I didn't listen to that. But everything is divine. You'll see as this story goes on. And so that was New Year's Eve day when I did that and set myself back and was so discouraged with myself. The next day is New Year's Day. And in all of this, I had gone to a chiropractor previously who told me that this thing in my back must have happened in my childhood. I asked if I could have done it doing yoga. He said, you'd be in so much pain if you did that, you would know that it happened. So it must have come from childhood. And I also had 3 different readers tell me that there was something that came from childhood and also in my neck. And so on New Year's Day, I decided to give my mother a call. And I just mentioned to her that I was doing this work on my back and how I was discouraged that I had set it back. And I said, I've had several people tell me that this must have stemmed from childhood. And she told me that, and this is all leading to the physical, that when I was about 2 years old, I fell out of my crib. And she said they lived in a basement apartment at the time. So basically I was falling onto a concrete floor. And she said, thankfully, my aunt, who was a nurse, was visiting at the time because my aunt knew that I was in shock. and told Mom to go get a blanket, and they took me to the hospital, and at the hospital they said everything was okay, so they sent me home. And I immediately felt so much heartbreak for this little girl. I know that my mom used to let me cry in the crib. She wanted me to do that with my own children, and there was no way I was going to do that. And I once went into a deep meditation that was like going into a hypnotic state and visiting. I was doing healing work between me and my mother, and I went back to being 6 months old, and I was crying in my crib, and it was like I was reliving that moment. I was crying and crying and crying, and finally I heard footsteps, and I was like, oh, the relief. She's coming. I just felt so relieved. And then she came in and she rubbed my back and turned me over, and then she left. And the devastation that I felt in that moment was profound, completely devastated. I needed to be held, and it didn't happen. So it's like having your hopes built up, and then the carpet falls out from under you. And so I know this. And so in that moment when she told me that, first thing I thought was, I wonder if that trauma is still in my body. And then this deep, deep sadness that has been within me when I was a child that could not make me smile for photographs. And then she said, you also fell out of your high chair, and that's why you lost your front tooth at 16, which she didn't tell me when I was 16 and lost my front tooth and was devastated. So I obviously landed on my face and did damage to my first tooth. And when I fell out of my high chair, which probably talks about why there's something in my neck as well. I was amazed that I never learned these things about myself before. And so through all of this, I realized, had I not picked Finley out of my crib, I wouldn't have brought this up with my mother. And just look at the divine grace that I set myself back by lifting my grandchild out of the crib. I was determined with my own children, and even with him, not to leave them. And he wasn't crying. He wakes up and they go get him as soon as he wakes up. But he was just making some noises and just arousing. But it's so significant, I know, that I set my back into the old position by lifting him out of the crib. And so I'm going back to get this all done again. But what I realized was, this is the deep sadness. I was so sad for the rest of that day. I spent about 3 hours just processing it all, talking to people, because I know it's easier for me to cry when I'm talking to someone, and I knew these tears needed to come out. This was deep sadness that was released by those acupuncture needles going deep into my body. So we accessed through the physical body the sadness that I've always known was there and was never able to access by doing the work that I've done so much in the etheric realm, I like to call it. And so it really showed me how important it is that this work happens in the physical body. And then I received an email. So for those of you who are familiar with the Gene Keys by Richard Rudd, it's brilliant work. And I'm not sure if it's 5 or 6 days, there's a new gene key. And the gene key for this week is the 54th gene key, which is at the very top of my gene keys chart. It's my life's work, and it's here because this is the week that my birthday is. So every year at your birthday, you have this gene key. And there are 3 levels to the gene key, and the highest level for this one is Ascension. So Ascension is my life's work. And when I went in and read about this gene key again, because I haven't studied it nearly to the depth that you can study it, I've just touched the surface really. In this gene key, it talks about ascension being a physical experience. So it's not even about us leaving this earth and going into another realm. It's about us bringing heaven to earth and living heaven on earth while we're in these physical bodies. And then we can choose to leave whenever we want. It's about moving into this 5th dimensional frequency while we are in our physical bodies. So the synchronicities, this is why I say 2021 has been so full already. That profound healing on the first day of 2021, getting in touch with my sadness, has set the course for 2021. And here's what I know. We cannot be in touch with our joy unless we're in touch with our sadness. I remember 2012 was the year I dedicated to healing, and holy smokes, it was the same thing. It started in January that year. So I have New Year's Day is always a new beginning for us. And then because my birthday is on the 6th of January, I have these 2 new beginnings. And in 2012, the Chinese New Year was in January, and that's when very significant events happened to me. I talk about it in my book, Conversations with a Tree. And so I know, and so 2013, I know in 2012, healing was key. Like the whole year was about healing. So in 2013, I decided, okay, I'm going to dedicate this year to joy. And I soon came to realize you can't know joy until you know your sadness. And here I am, this many years later, 7 years later, a whole cycle, finally getting in touch with the sadness and releasing the sadness out of the depth of my body. That first needle felt like it was going right to my spine. And the sadness is being released so that now I can find joy. And interestingly as well, I am moving into a personal 3-year in numerology. So I looked up just one person on number 3 year, and it's all about joy. That's a part of what this year is about. So it's just so magical and so beautiful when we get into this place where we've done a lot of healing and released a lot of the mind chatter so that we can be in tune with what life is really bringing to us. And we can allow, as Lord Ashtar said in that message, the more we allow what's really here with us and stay in the present with it, the more we then move through it and really get it and see it and don't have to hold it as a restriction any longer. And then the more the universe can just put us in that very loving, nurturing riverbed that knows exactly where it wants to take us. And we just roll along and look up and look at the sky and the stars and the trees and the riverbank and the animals and the flowers and enjoy. So I wanted to share that just to show the depth of the physical and what it holds. And another piece of this, when I was connecting with a Sasquatch being for a while. He's now moved on and is moving into other things, but this being was with me like a loving guide. It was such a beautiful experience. And I said to him, I knew my physical body would be afraid to see him. I said, I'd love to see you, but I know my physical body would be afraid. And he really agreed with that. Our physical body, even though in our mind we may work things out, it takes longer for the body to really get it. It's held in a material level. Things in our mind are more of an etheric level, but the body is in this physical level, but it is where everything happens, and it is where we do our work, and it is where we anchor in this ascension into this physical body that is on this earth. So I will ask Lord Ashtar, thank you for still being here, to come in and share what he would like us to know about this importance of bringing ascension into the physical and this awareness that it's not about flying off. It's about being here in this state of grace. So I will invite him in now. And so it is, beloved souls. I am here delighting in this story, delighting in this interaction as those of you on the other side of this camera are receiving codes and transmissions as this one is sharing her story. For she has elevated herself into the frequency of ascension quite fully in her evolution at this time, with her willingness to be doing so much internal work, and also with her willingness to shift her work. She has talked about that. It is a willingness to embrace what is present in the now and also to shift and change when that is invited in. Without the willingness to shift and change, she would not have had these experiences that she is now having. She would not have had the experience of this deep release into the body, and she actually contemplated not going to this practitioner because when she spoke with him on the phone, she wasn't sure about his energy. And yet, when she showed up in the office, she adored him and she adored his receptionist. She told the receptionist when she left that she loved the experience of being there. And the receptionist laughed and said, very few people say that because they're getting poked with needles. But it was so appropriate for her to be there, but she almost decided against it. This is where she allowed, through her own processing, allowed herself to step into the experience of that great release. And we are so delighted that she made that choice. And again, we share this with you to show you how fragile, we could say, it is in the way that things unfold because of every thought and every decision that you have. So, beloveds, this is why it is important to be tuned in, to be aware of who you are on the inside, to turn off all the chatter of the mind of everything that's happening outside of you. Of course, you want to be aware, but if you're so aware and so tuned in that it's dragging you down and it's busying your mind, then you're only setting yourself back. You're not allowing the forward progress that is available at this time. It's very important to do whatever you need to do to be able to get yourself into a state of stillness. And if that means avoiding all media, social media, and all media, then that's what you must do. If you are choosing to step onto this ascension path and to integrate these new codices of light that are now available to humanity on this planet, especially since the solstice, if that is your choice, then you must do whatever is required for you to be able to get into the stillness in life that gives space for the newness and the potential of you and the awareness of you to come in. So, beloveds, this piece about the ascension being physical, there are people who pass over the physical plane and do ascend, and that is one way for it to be done. What we would say that this one is talking about with this is that this is the opportunity for humanity to live on a planet where you are in the fifth dimension. And from the fifth dimension, you can and do ascend. And so those of you who are ready to anchor in this light and who have been and consciously are anchoring in this light, you are doing it through the physical, through your physical presence here. It is not work that you do in the other dimensions that brings it here. It is the physical body, the physical vessel. And that is why so many light workers were placed on the planet at this time, because we needed the physical vessels to be anchored in here to ensure that this ascension was achieved. And you all came, hands raised high, willing to be the ones who would be here and go through this time of turmoil and strife so that you could be anchors of the light. And to you, beloved souls, to many of you, we just want to remind you this piece about the Savior piece that this one mentioned earlier, and also about getting to know the self. Know that the divine is within you, and instead of going out to your guides, look into your heart. Look into that light in there as if the creator of all that is right there, and connect with that creator and connect with your guides from that space. And you will have a different experience. This is something else that this channel is now going through, and perhaps she will express it more fully in a future time. These are all the potentials that are here, and these are all, again, those little fragile shifts that really make a big difference. She is noticing a huge difference by accessing her wisdom in this way instead of seeing it as the guides outside of her. So we will tell you more fully now since we are talking about it. When she was calling me in earlier to see if I would be willing to be with you and share a message with you, She did what she usually does, imagining me outside of herself. Then she remembered and she dropped into her heart and saw the creator of all that is there within her, and then asked for Ashtar to come forward from the creator. So she accessed the creator first and then asked through the creator for Ashtar to come to her, and she saw me as moving out from her heart and standing before her. When she was trying to access me from the outside, she wasn't as sure that I was there. And that is why she had the thought, oh yes, I will go into my heart, because that's what I'm doing now. I'm seeing the creator of all that is in here. It is in me. Access it that way. And she was not amazed, but definitely intrigued that suddenly she saw me before her and she knew I was there. The true and authentic, because she always makes sure that it is that, Lord Ashtar. And beloveds, I am delighted to be here with you. With that, we will leave it. This has been a fairly long message to this point. We, beloved souls of the earth, are so delighted to be with you in this year of 2021. It is a year, if you can take yourself to the place of stillness, you will be amazed at all that is going to unfold this year, to see the return of the sovereignty of humanity become your reality. And yet we want you to know that everyone is living their own reality. So if you are living anything less than that, if you are living in fear of any kind, remember to go in and find out what that fear is from. Perhaps remove yourself from the sources of that fear so you can come home to yourself, come home to this now moment, come home to your own life, because that is where everything happens. It happens from your own inner awareness. There is nothing else. So bring your own inner awareness to a place of stillness by doing whatever you need to do to make that happen, if you want to be living a life of ease and grace in that river with very secure riverbanks that is not going to give way and have you spread like a chaotic storm. Know that it is there waiting for you, and be responsible for your own evolution, for your own transformation, and for your own restoration back to the encoded being of love and light that you are. This is all available right now. Know that, beloveds. Don't be in a rush. One step at a time to get where you need to be fully anchored in to this experience of knowing that life is beautiful and grand. And many people will disagree with this when they look at what is happening on the outside. We want you to rise above it, beloveds, and look down from a perspective of the bigger picture. Humanity is going through a mass change. And so therefore, like the tornado, change needs restructuring. You cannot change your system that has been so suppressive without restructuring. So you are still in that restructuring period. For anyone who has built their new home, they know what it's like. Things come up. You have to make a lot of decisions. There's surprises. It seems to take so much longer than you thought it would, cost more than you thought it would. This is where you are as a whole, as humanity and as Gaia and all life on this planet is restructuring. Be like the flower, beloved, that takes its time to grow. It waits for the right environment. Hopefully someone will create the right environment for it. That is in relation to you creating the right environment for your own growth. And the bud does not come into full bloom until the time is right. And the bud doesn't even know when the time is right. We hope you see this analogy. Be patient. Everything unfolds in the perfection of divine timing. We love you so. We are so delighted to be here with you. We honor you so deeply. You have no idea. We have so much honor for everyone on the earth at this time. And for you, beloved light workers who have been walking the front lines for so long, we are here to catch you in your weariness, call upon us to embrace you, to hold you, to fill you with our light and love. All you need to do is call, and we are here, beloveds. There is so much love for you, and so it is. And so it is, beautiful souls. Thank you for being present. I too love you so much, and I love that we are here together, and I feel you when I'm doing these videos, and I so appreciate everyone who shows up in the comments and just interchanges with me, so I know what your experiences are with these videos. It just helps me connect more with my community, the beautiful souls who are here. Again, I also want to remind you that I'm starting a membership called The Gateway. It's going to be open in a couple of days, and my Love Notes is the basic level membership that you will get for $11 a month, and it's on a monthly basis, so you can cancel at any time if you would like to support this channel that way and receive the beautiful channeled messages from the Love Notes 5 days a week in your inbox. Go ahead and check that out at my website. It'll be available in a couple of days. The main page isn't there yet. It's still being worked on today. So sending so much love to you all. See you soon.